Evening, Miles. What's up? Where you at? Happy 2019.
Happy 2019. I'm in Cleveland. It used to be
Cleveland,
basketball town until Kyle Korver left.
and now he's in Utah. We're back, 2019. We have so much to talk about, Miles. So much is going on. The NBA's trade deadline is right upon us. All-star votes have kicked off. The seedings have settled down a little bit. Trade rumors are swirling. Where do you want to start?
Uh, the Lakers.
Lakers. I'm glad you said that. So here we are, January 11th. The Lakers are. I don't have the.
I think they're the eighth seed.
They're the 8th seed in the West. 23-19. Next, they play Utah tonight. So let's
They've
just.
won their last two. So first of all, I want to get your take on whether you think this LeBron James injury is a serious injury or not.
Oh, it's completely fake. He is 34. He had been giving them so many consistently good minutes. I think the first quarter part of the season, he was testing his jump shot. He was testing his new role at the power forward position. I think he did have a little bit of a hamstring tweak, but he was just reevaluated, and he's going to be out 2 more weeks. I think he's taking an extended leave. A couple years ago, he went to when he was still in Cleveland, he went to Miami for a rehab trip, what have you. He knows he's got to play the All-Star break. He's got to perform there. And it's an opportunity for the young Lakers to step up, for somebody to be that number 2. Kyle Kuzma, career high 41 points. It's only his second year in the league. Can he be the number 2 behind LeBron James? Do they have him on the roster already?
Yeah, I was going to say almost all those exact same things, and I was going to add Brandon Ingram had a breakout game as well, where this is really the first team in LeBron James' career. They've won their last 2, and they were struggling at first without LeBron, but I think you're right that it is LeBron James kind of like taking a step back and going, what have I got to work with? Who's going to step up while I'm not there? And he's resting for the All-Star break, which does take a toll on guys, especially guys like LeBron. I think it's kind of like a good move.
The young guys specifically, let's talk about them. So we have Kuzma, Ingram, Ball, and let's lump Hart in there as well. I think, if we're being comparative to like a Golden State 2014 young core of Curry, Thompson, Draymond, or a Boston young core, Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, Jason Tatum, I think you have to temper your expectations a little bit, right? Some of these guys are only in their second year. Lonzo specifically, I think people have been way too hard on him. I think he's always a triple-double threat. He's only in his second year of the league, averaging 9 points. I think, look, if you were to ask CJ McCollum in his second year in the league to command the offense next to one of the greatest players of all time, I think he would struggle. I don't think Lonzo has struggled playing next to LeBron James. I hear he's not committed to the game. My goodness, he's a lob threat every time. He's very passive, but I think it works. I think Kuzma is the Mamba mentality. If you have too many Mambas in the same room, you're going to get. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do. I think you're right that Lonzo really hasn't disappointed in a way that I guess anybody expected, if that makes sense. So his shot has been a little bit off. I think everyone kind of expected that. Seeing his form coming out of college, I mean, all the Ball brothers, they've got weird form. He had a slow release to begin with. Obviously, adjusting to the line from college to the league is always an adjustment for any shooter. But I think that was expected. Obviously, a guy that has his kind of court vision is going to throw some turnovers. Again, expected. But like you said, he's, again, playing alongside the best player in the world.
So let me ask you this. I'm looking at his stats right now. He's pretty much averaging the same. 2 fouls a game, around 10 points, 1.5 steals. His assists have gone down 7 to 5. His 3-point shooting's gone up from 30 to 33%, but pretty much, consistent across the board. Is that a good sign or a bad sign?
I think that's a good sign because consistency, at least you know exactly what you're going to get out of him. And that's what I think Lonzo is good at.
But
and as far as saying,
wouldn't you want him to take the second step forward and from year 2 to year 1, from 1 to 2?
Yeah, but the team has changed so much. I mean, I guess it hasn't changed so much, but bringing in LeBron James is a huge change, especially from going into your rookie to sophomore season, where his rookie season, they really were just trying to figure out the NBA. Yep. Him and Kuzma, Ingram. I mean, then they bring in LeBron James, and they bring in Tyson Chandler, and they bring in
Rajon Rondo, who was going to start at the beginning of the season. Lonzo was out, and he had to fight for every minute that he's had to earn every minute that he's gotten.
Absolutely. That JaVale McGee. So he's got new guys to pass to, new guys to try to figure out, especially as a point guard, where you got to figure out where these guys want the ball. That's a huge responsibility. So I think the fact that his stats have actually stayed the same is a good sign, and I'm not worried at all about.
And to that point, I think his defense has gotten a level or two better. He's all around. He takes that responsibility as, okay, I think this is going to be, if I can shut down a Kemba, a Steph Curry, a Kyrie, you can only slow them down at this point, but he's 6'5". The energy, the effort have been there on the defensive end of the floor. And I think in order for him to keep the starting point guard position, he's going to have to, or even look, it works financially for a Kemba Lonzo Ball straight up trade. He is a very valuable asset. If you're the Lakers, how valuable is he? Do you think you can just outright? I saw the Kemba Lonzo Ball trade out there, and I kind of wanted to pick your brain on it. I think, don't you think that they could just get him in free agency in the summer? Or
for Kemba, you mean?
Kemba for Lonzo. I mean, Mitch Kupchak was the former Lakers GM, and now he's the GM of the
If I could straight up
Hornets.
Trade Lonzo Ball for Kemba Walker, I would. Regardless of what the free agent situation was, you've got LeBron James. If you traded for Kemba Walker, it's a pretty good likelihood that you're going to be able to sign him if you want in free agency.
I think Lonzo and LeBron have an unusual bond. And I think if the Lakers are going to try to, which it seems like they're going to try to take kind of the Boston role of try and win now while developing their young core at the same time, I think Lonzo is a good medium for LeBron James and his older veteran group to mingle with the younger people. I think, because LeBron and Lonzo, they just have they were both really heavily criticized by the media. And we saw last year when LeBron kind of took him aside and told him to keep his head up. And we've heard quotes from LeBron saying, talking Lonzo up, how he can do things on the court that's special. LeBron doesn't do that he wasn't saying that about Cedi Osman.
Yeah, I think that if I was the Lakers, I'm not actively seeking opportunities right now. I'm honestly.
And I think that's smart. I think they have a flawed roster that they could upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, the future's really bright for them.
Yeah.
And LeBron James, for what he did last year with Cleveland in the playoffs, the way that Rondo played in the playoffs, they've now got Tyson Chandler. He knows the playoffs. JaVale McGee knows playoffs. Honestly, I wouldn't be that concerned about the team getting knocked out earlier than expected, at least. I think a lot of it will depend on the way that the West is seeded. I think that right now, the way the standings are, those are the 8 teams that are going to go to the playoffs, barring any serious injuries from those 8 teams.
I think Memphis is kind of out of the picture. But the Lakers, man, if they can just get top 4 seed, 4 or 5 in that range, it would really help them, I think.
Yeah, especially for the young guys, especially playing at the Staples Center, game 1, game 2. That's a big difference as opposed to going and playing at the Bay, you know?
Right. And Denver, Golden State, Oklahoma City, Portland, the Clippers, Houston, San Antonio, and the Lakers. I think that's like you said, that's the 8, unless I think New Orleans has got a push ahead of them. They may be able to catch maybe San Antonio if they slip, but San Antonio, man, game of the year last night.
Oh my goodness. Okay. My dad used to talk about a game way back in the day between the Blazers and the Suns. It was a triple overtime game.
Do you know what year?
Oh man, I know it was like a Drexler era, but I don't remember the year. I know I've gone back and watched the game before because they play it on.
NBA classics.
So my dad talked about that game, and every single time he talks about like an unbelievable basketball game between two teams, that's what he talks about. And this last night, the Spurs and the Thunder, that's my game. That's the one that I'm going to tell people forever. That was one of the most phenomenal basketball games I've ever seen.
DeMar DeRozan had it. From the first quarter, DeMar DeRozan had this beautiful turnaround, double pump, one-hand slam.
Oh, yeah.
And the Spurs were up by like 10 at that point, and it was just the whole game, double overtime.
And, I mean, honestly, DeRozan struggled a little bit toward the end. He kept a lot of their momentum at the beginning of the game, but everybody shared in – I mean, they had, I think, almost 6 guys. They definitely had 6 guys in double digits, but I think almost 6 over 20. I mean,
and it was nice. It was nice to see a duel of DeMar and Russell both trying to create for their teammates. It was really nice to see non-point guards, in this new NBA. Really, this was kind of like one of the first games where non-point, Brian Forbes is spotting up and playing defense. He's not trying to run the offense. It's DeMar.
Derek White played unbelievable too. He had 23, 8, and 6, I think.
Man, where did the Spurs find these guys?
That's what I was thinking during the game. I'm like, wow. So they've lost DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, and they've got Derek White sitting on their bench. This guy was out of nowhere. He was out of two school.
It's easy for them to pick people because they have to first filter anybody who has tattoos on their arms, which is 90% of the NBA. So the last 10%, that's who they choose from.
That seems
DeMar doesn't have any tattoos.
Yeah,
and they make LaMarcus wear double arm sleeves.
Yeah, I'm excited. It made me really excited for the Spurs too.
Yeah.
Spurs and Oklahoma City. I mean, the fact that Oklahoma City even stayed in that game when San Antonio hit their first 14 threes. That was an NBA record.
Yep. Do you want to talk about Oklahoma City a little bit? Because I think they're really intriguing.
Yeah, so Jeremy Grant was another one. He played fantastic. When Steven Adams, he tweaked an ankle last night. That concerned me a little bit. But he came back out and played, had a big dunk on it, so I think he's okay. He might take a couple games off, but I think Westbrook, from what I watched last night, is really settling into more of a playmaking role like he should, where he's really trying to make Paul George, I think, the focal point of the offense, which is smart.
I think that's where it takes the Thunder from, a 2015 remix to a new championship level team. I don't think this is, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant 2.0. Paul George definitely has gotten back to his Indiana days. I think that's for sure. There were questions as to whether or not he would even get back to this point. So it's nice to see, just from like a humanity standpoint, that he's healthy and up to his full potential. Having said that, he and Westbrook have really gelled. I think, if you think about peak Paul George, him going up against LeBron, in the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe coming up a tad short, but faring better than a DeMar DeRozan, for example. You put him alongside someone like Russ, and then just defenders and shooters around them. The question I have is, do the Thunder have enough depth and bench scoring and role players to really make it a run? They don't have a third star, but do they need one?
Well, here's what they do have, though. They have Steven Adams, who is one of the more efficient players in the league, and he does his job every single night. That's kind of like back to the efficiency thing where they know exactly what to expect out of.
Their roles are defined.
Yeah. And with Jeremy Grant,
which is huge in the NBA.
Yeah.
Right now, sorry, I just want to Boston right now, everybody thinks their role is to score and to put up stats. I need a new contract, Markieff Morris. I need a new team, Terry Rozier. I need more development, Jaylen Brown. The Thunder, I know, Alex Abrinas, I'm going to shoot threes. Nerlens Noel, you need to come in and give 20 good, hard minutes for the backup big. Steven Adams, like you said.
So I think Jeremy Grant is, to me, their third option. I mean, from what I saw last night, I mean, he was everywhere. But also,
he's really played well.
Dennis Schroeder was awesome off the bench. So he's given Westbrook some time to rest the few minutes that he does. So he's playing like 35 minutes a game probably, Westbrook. And Schroeder is really able to come in and keep the offense flowing in a way that looks like it's a first unit, especially with Jeremy Grant and, when Nerlens Noel is healthy, I think he's a really good option as well. I think they really do have the depth overall, but more than that, they have the effort from all of their role players. It seems like everybody is committed to that team, where last year we were kind of wondering whether Paul George was going to break out of his slump, whether he was going to ever perform or show up to a playoff game, and then whether they were going to stay together at all. So now, and Andre Robinson's coming back. He's supposed to be back about the same time as Boogie Cousins.
I don't think you can really expect much from him. I don't think you look at guys like Wes Matthews. It takes a while for you to come back from an Achilles injury, especially when you're in February, playoff push. They desperately need his defense. He would take them to a different level, but I just don't know if you can expect that from him.
Yeah, that's true. I'm optimistic about it because I remember back when Andre Robinson was playing, and it was with Carmelo, Paul George, Westbrook, Steven Adams, and they were.
Yeah, he was the fifth. He was the missing link, as you maybe whatever. You know what I mean?
But you
slide in Jeremy Grant in that Carmelo Anthony position, and it's suddenly a different team.
A much better team, in my opinion. It's so much more athletic. I mean,
Jeremy Grant's at 12.5 points, up from his previous career high second year, 10. He's only 24, shooting almost 35% from three. I think he could be that third option. I've never really thought about him in that role, but like you said, he was all over the court. He's so much more dynamic than a Carmelo Anthony.
Abdel Nader played really well last night as well. He came in, he did not play a lot of minutes, and they weren't necessarily important minutes, but when he came off the bench, there was like definite spark. And I think that they could use him 10 to 12 minutes a game with that second unit to give them a push.
I think if Oklahoma City and Utah play a 7-game series right now, I think Oklahoma City sweeps them.
Sorry, 7-game series with who?
Utah.
Oh, absolutely.
A rematch from the first round of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma City is a Western Conference Finals team for sure. How they match up.
It's how far will Paul George take you? Is he going to go toe-to-toe with Durant in the Western Conference Finals and put up 35 a game? Is Westbrook going to be this amazing facilitator every night, or is he going to try and take over and kind of block out the team?
Well, the problem with Westbrook right now is the shooting is terrible. He was 0 for 4 last night. He made a lot of really smart decisions. And despite shooting like 23% on the, is it on the season?
It's on the season. And he missed a wide open three out of rhythm. His shot just looks broken.
He's thinking too much. Like you can see it when he gets the ball. It's just all the thoughts racing through his head is, how am I going to shoot this ball? Is it, I need rotation on it. I need to use my legs, all these things. And when guys are moving that fast and closing out on you because he's respected as one of the best players in the league. So there's no way they're going to sit there and let him think his way through a shot.
Right.
So it's thinking, hesitation, and then he shoots it. And everything he shot was front rim. There's no confidence.
He should definitely not stop taking those shots. Definitely not stop.
Yeah,
you look at a guy like Ben Simmons, he's afraid to have a low percentage. Maybe that's his immaturity in the league. I don't know if you can really compare the two, but they're both non-shooters that try and facilitate the offense. Russell last night did such a great job, and he can't shoot. But he can use his athleticism. Once that starts to go, I think that's when he'll take a real step back. But he's still averaging a triple-double and 20 points on the season.
Well, and I think the biggest thing that Westbrook does that not a lot of other guards do is his shot wasn't falling. He got to the rim.
Yeah.
That was his main go-to. I mean, he was 24, 24, and 13, I think, was a stat line. So 24 points off 0 3-pointers. And that's where I want to talk about LaMarcus Aldridge, because he had 56 without shooting a single 3-pointer.
Man. But he does take some long twos that he just needs to take another step or two.
Yeah. That was the one in the corner was with Steven Adams inside his shorts.
It reminded me of his Portland days. Some of his Portland days, he could, he makes that turnaround elbow jumper, and you can't stop it. It's like a Dirk Nowitzki move.
Yeah, and I think they talked about that. The broadcasters were talking about
how do they?
How Dirk Nowitzki kind of transitioned the game, almost the same way that Harden is doing it
for non-point guards running the show.
Right. But they all have kind of that 1 foot step back fade, where that has just kind of become a necessary weapon for a post player.
It was interesting. I was listening to the Zach Lowe podcast, or the Ryan Russillo, and he had Jeff Van Gundy on. And Van Gundy said if he was coaching against Harden, what he would do is he would let Harden have the step back three all day, because I think he can get it. He would try and take away the drive and the fouling, because that's where he can just destroy your team.
Well, that's where he really finds his rhythm too.
Yeah.
Is when he gets to the free throw line. And
plus, if you're taking a high volume amount of threes, it's a lot of misses and a lot of long rebounds that transition result in a transition three or a layup.
That's what I was kind of going to bring up about the MVP race right now. It's almost all-star break, but there's still a lot of talks about where this MVP race is at. And right now they have the two top ones are James Harden and Giannis. I kind of disagree with both.
Really?
But I don't know. I mean,
who should be the front runner in your opinion?
To me, Kawhi Leonard should be up there.
Interesting.
And I think probably Anthony Davis, although his team, I mean, like when you're playing for New Orleans, his MVP candidacy would be based solely on stats, where I think they are taking into account the fact that Milwaukee is the best team in the NBA right now, top record in the NBA at least. And
why doesn't Nikola Jokic get consideration?
I think he's up there. He's like top 5. He's 9, because his stats are impressive too. He's 19, 10 and a half, and 7.5 assists a game.
And he's also the focal point of the offense.
Yeah.
And he's been without a couple key players. Will Barton's been out.
And he's really the first big man that's tried to become a facilitator in the league, I think, where they really are running the offense through him.
You hear these folk tales of Arvydas Sabonis when he was in Russia or wherever, Europe, totally destroying people with these crazy. I think that might be Nikola Jokic now.
Yeah, but probably 3 inches shorter.
3 inches
Even
shorter, a
then,
couple, but still,
I
he's
mean,
23.
you're comparing him to Arvydas Sabonis, who, in my
Dude,
opinion, was the greatest passing center in history, and that includes Bill Walton. I think somebody called, who was it? It was probably Chris Webber. I hate listening to Chris Webber. We should do a whole episode on why we hate commentators in the NBA. He called Clint Capella one of the best passers in the league.
Goodness. Well,
Which
those former big men, they have to look out for each other.
he had a nice pass, I won't lie. But here's the other thing. It was Antetokounmpo. He missiled a pass off of James Harden's face.
Yeah, he had to go to concussion protocol after that.
That was a terrible pass. Where was he throwing the ball? When I watched Antetokounmpo, I don't see like a really versatile player, to be honest with you. I see a guy who's his effort level,
Yep.
he's obviously a freak. I mean, 6'11", his athleticism, he's terrifying.
And the effort is really the most underrated thing. Because how many times have you told me, if I was 6'11", I would be giving maximum effort, which it's true. But he actually does it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why he's in consideration. His skills are still really raw, where you see him in the post and he does not really know what to do with it.
You can tell he just wants to do a simple drop step, get to the basket where he can elevate and finish over the top of the guy.
Yeah,
it's kind of his go-to, and he can do it greatly.
Player.
Or he just wants to turn around and just slam it. But I kind of agree. Kawhi has kind of a step ahead of him, even though they may jostle throughout the year in the standings. But Kawhi is just such a better closer at the end of a game. And I think his teammates are better. I think just Toronto overall, they may not have a center that can step out to half court and hit an open three, but they have more depth. They have Fred VanVleet is better than, Malcolm Brogdon, I think. Maybe not. Kyle Lowry is better than Malcolm Brogdon, although Malcolm Brogdon, 99% from the free throw line this year. He's just, classic Virginia guy. He's going to give you really good effort. I shouldn't discount Malcolm Brogdon. I take back my Malcolm Brogdon slander.
It's close.
It's close. I think between Milwaukee and Toronto, that's going to be a great Eastern Conference final.
I'm looking forward to that one. That'll be cool. So how do you think – let's talk about Minnesota real quick.
Yeah. You want to finish it out on Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay.
Minnesota firing Tibbs.
Trading away Jimmy Butler, firing Tibbs, calling Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins go off one night, where they happen to be on national TV. I wonder why they went off that night.
Also, though, I think like the interim, is it Ryan Saunders? The interim head coach there?
It's, the Saunders child.
Yeah. I think Minnesota actually looked like they were enjoying themselves. Like they breathed a huge sigh of relief after getting rid of Tom Thibodeau. And I don't think it's necessarily like a personal thing, like Tom Thibodeau was doing a bad job. But I think he really was kind of starting to wear on that team. Where they're not bad. I mean, with Derrick Rose playing the way that he is, I mean, he's obviously not vintage Rose, but he's kind of like, the difference between Kobe.
It's a remix. It's definitely a Kobe. Yeah, he still has the same MVP mindset that got him to that point, minus his outworldly athleticism.
And then you've got Karl Anthony Towns, obviously. I mean, I think considered one of the best power forwards in the game today. I would say top 2, at least. And
if you don't count LeBron James as a power forward, yes.
I don't count LeBron James as a power forward. Okay. I have like more of an old school mindset on that one, but
sure.
I see him as like a small forward, maybe shooting guard if he really wants to be considered that. A small forward though. I mean, like he's a scoring small forward. I think Kevin Garnett when I think of a power forward, which is more like Karl Anthony Towns to me.
Right.
They have a good team with a lot of weapons. And I saw them kind of like relax a little bit when they kind of got rid of Tibbs, and they were happy for Ryan Saunders, who won his, I think, first game as
And
an NBA coach.
he's relatively young too. You know, I think they said he was 34 or something. I do think you have a point. It's the old school style of NBA hard ass coach is definitely gone by the wayside. These guys are, you know, Andrew Wiggins is worth $100 million. Are you going to tell somebody who's 20 years old and worth $100 million how terrible they are? Or are you going to try and, you know, Toronto's head coach is very much the way he talks, and even Milwaukee's Mike Budenholzer. I don't know how to say his last name. Budenholzer. Dundee. They're both, you can tell in timeouts, they're, you know, a collective unit. They're really trying to build the team camaraderie. And especially when you have a young core, you don't want to bring, you eventually you want to get over Mark Jackson, Golden State. You want to bring in a Steve Kerr, where it's kind of like a neutral, millennial, can talk to. Karl Anthony Towns very much wants to be catered to and the star, like LaMarcus Aldridge did in Portland. He was really, he had to have his this and his that. And Karl Anthony Towns, great player. He wants the Minnesota Timberwolves to build around him, and I don't blame him. He should be the focal point. Ship Jimmy Butler out, ship Tibbs out. Let's just hit the hard reset button. This guy's still, what, 22? Not even?
Yeah, and I think at the time, bringing Jimmy Butler in
made sense.
Yeah, it made perfect sense, and I was really excited about it. I thought actually he would kind of be that medium point between a head coach who has an old school defensive mindset.
That if they all bought in, that it would really take them to the next level, which they didn't.
Yeah, and it's in the NBA now where it's not fun. It's not fun to watch, to play a defensive style play. I mean,
and it doesn't really result in wins, and it results in injuries. You know, look at Memphis. They were trying to hold teams under 110, to your point, and now they can't. You can't sustain it. You can sustain transition in threes.
I think there's two teams probably that are going to keep it up, and that's the Spurs and Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City, I think, is because of the effort level that Russell Westbrook puts out on the defensive end of the floor as well.
Sets the tone for the team.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily like credit to a coach so much as credit to Russell Westbrook. Where the Spurs have a system, and they don't have a lot of athletes, but they played excellent defense. It might not have looked like it because they gave up 149 points, but Oklahoma City played unbelievable offense. It was better offense all the way around. And same goes for Oklahoma City. Every single shot that LaMarcus Aldridge made was contested. And, I mean, the 14 threes they hit were not easy shots. Those were off screens.
You might have just convinced me that San Antonio and Oklahoma State are the only two teams in the Western Conference that can take down the Warriors.
Yeah. And I think because maybe Oklahoma City might have a better chance at it.
Houston just switched everything. It caught the Warriors by surprise. I don't think you can get away with doing that.
No,
you have to be able to slow them down a little bit. Yeah.
I think Houston is going to be a better, well.
We're getting off Minnesota. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail us that bad. Minnesota.
That's true, yeah. I don't know.
Sorry.
They're
20 and 21. What do? Do they tank? Are they trying to win? I mean, obviously, but they have a 34-year-old head coach. What are they?
That's what I was going to say.
Playing for the future?
Another push for a playoff spot.
Do you trade anybody away, or are you just sticking with this young core? What do you think?
I mean, what kind of players are out there? The thing is, the NBA is in like this really awkward point. So they're 2.5 games off of a playoff spot, which is reasonable. Very reasonable. But they still have to win a lot of tough games. The trade deadline is close. But everybody really that's worth trading, that's going to turn a franchise around immediately, is going to be, do they get along with Karl Anthony Towns? Probably not. And is it going to be worth it for them long run because of free agency? And are they going to be able to get an efficient trade? Meaning, are they going to be able to make a trade without?
They already did.
Derrick Rose or
No, they can't get rid of Derrick Rose. Like you said, so you got Saric and you got Covington from the Butler trade. You didn't get picks. You got 2 young players, and you need to mesh because that's 4, potentially 5 of the 5 starters that you would have. If you throw Tyus Jones in there, that's your 5th starter. I think you could just kind of develop that and maybe get a Derrick. They have a Derrick Rose 6th man.
My prediction for what the future holds for Minnesota is I don't think they're going to make a playoff spot. I think they're going to make a push back up into it and make it interesting. It's kind of hard to predict. It's kind of hard to predict
long term with Andrew Wiggins.
I don't think
as your second guy.
Honestly, I think you can. It's the combination. It's the combination of Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
To me, that I don't think it's really a winning combination. It's impressive, sometimes fun to watch.
So what would Andrew Wiggins and Anthony Davis look like together? Just playing devil's advocate on who we think Karl-Anthony Towns versus Anthony Davis, who's more generational. Because I think you build around Karl-Anthony Towns, it'll result in more wins. But I think Anthony Davis is a better player.
Now that is an interesting thought. I'm not sure. I think Anthony Davis creates way more. He calls way more attention to himself on the floor. He's also not playing with any other All-Stars.
Drew Holiday's averaging 18 points this year. Better than CJ McCollum.
That's true.
But after that, there is a very hard fall off after that. I was trying to do a trade machine piece before this of like CJ goes to New Orleans so they can get help and we get something in return. Portland does, and there was nothing on the Pelicans roster that I wanted with a 10-foot pole besides Drew Holiday at $25 million, four more years left on his contract.
So with the trade deadline coming up, is there a trade that's going to be made, do you think? I don't think so.
I mean, what were the rumors? Jeremy Lin to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is really trying hard to do something. They're willing to give up their 2019 pick, so is Portland, but they're not willing to give away the 2021 unprotected from Miami. That's smart. They're not willing to mortgage that far down the way of the line, but they really need more depth. I've heard Noah Vonleh is available from New York. I don't know if that really helps you. I mean, I guess if you think Joel's going to be hurt at some point, or if you want to, expel him some energy. But, I mean, that's why you drafted Dario Saric.
Honestly, if you can get Jeremy Lin for draft picks, I'd probably do it.
If you're Portland, the Lakers, Houston. Sure. What do you think of Houston? What do you think of Austin Rivers on Houston?
Oh, he's playing really well. I like it.
I think I kind of love it.
Yeah, really well. I probably watched more of Houston in the last week or so than I have of any other team. And Austin Rivers is, I think, the reason that they're actually winning.
Really?
Because they've won like 11 out of 13 or something like that.
Because essentially they've given Gerald Green's minutes and role to Austin Rivers.
And Gerald Green looked really good too.
Yeah, but you can't rely.
Yeah, Austin Rivers has been consistent. And he knows his job, which is he's a classic
defense.
3-and-D guy.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like a 2.0 version, like a new generational kind of 3-and-D guy, where back in the day it was a luxury. It was kind of like Bruce Bowen, where we don't need him, but he really helps us. And every single team that was winning championships had somebody kind of like Bruce Bowen. Where now it's kind of not really like a 3-and-D guy. It's just something they say, but it doesn't necessarily exist in the league. But if it did, I think that Austin Rivers is like the ideal new generational 3-and-D guy.
Danny Green also comes to mind.
That's true, actually. Danny Green is one of the originals still left in the league. That's a good point.
Pretty much the Bruce Bowen replacement.
Yeah. He's a San Antonio Spur. San Antonio Spurs are going to be the Spurs until Popovich leaves.
I think Portland's trying to make Jake Layman the 3-and-D. To your point, I think he should get the starting spot over Mo Harkless. Harkless isn't really producing, in my opinion.
I haven't seen a whole lot of that Harkless. I
No,
like the
and
way
he's been struggling. He's been struggling with injury, and they gave him that massive deal, so they want to do it. But I think if you're Neil O'Shea and you're willing to package the 2019 pick, throw in Harkless in there too. I do think Jeremy Lin would work on off the Portland bench because I don't think that Seth Curry and Nick Stauskas work well together enough to take you over the top. I think they both do the same role very, very well, which is shoot and create for themselves. But unless you pair them with Evan Turner, which makes your defensive backcourt god awful, with Nick Stauskas, Seth Curry, and Evan Turner, I don't see it. Although I do think Seth and Stauskas are very, very, very good players off the bench, and I think Evan Turner's also taken that step, even though he's been earning that money for a couple of years now. But I mean, I think Jeremy Lin would come in and help facilitate. He's like 11.5 points a game for the Hawks this year, I think, and he's really, when you can't handle any more Trae Young, you can handle a serviceable point guard in Jeremy Lin.
And he's really been consistent. I think he knows exactly how to produce Jeremy Lin numbers, which is like 12 and 6.
Right.
And I think
in 20 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
Get to the line a couple times, make the defense be aggressive enough to where the defense has to help and then find your teammates.
Yeah, so
but
I think
he has to have the ball in his hands the whole time to do that, like a Derrick Rose.
Yeah, he's going to take a lot of dribbles. I mean, he's not going to do the Klay Thompson 41 with 4 dribbles, which is a different kind of animal.
I think Ray Allen is the only other person that probably could do that.
Maybe Kyle Korver if he took that many shots.
And was 15 years younger. And
had teammates that would run plays for him like Klay.
And happened to be in 2019. Where it's like freaking soccer out here.
I'm disappointed with the Jazz. I haven't seen the Jazz that I thought I would see, especially like the way they played last year, and then they get Kyle Korver. I really expected more. I guess that says a lot about the West.
Think about the top 3 players from the 2018 draft class: Donovan Mitchell, in any order: Donovan Mitchell, Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz, and Jason Tatum. All of those guys, other than De'Aaron Fox, he's the only outlier in the top 5. Those 4 players are really struggling in their second year. I mean, relatively, Jason Tatum, everyone thought he was going to be the next Kobe, but he's obviously Boston has their struggles. Lonzo's, like we went over this earlier in the podcast, but De'Aaron Fox is the only guy that's really taken that sophomore next step. Everybody thought that he was the least likely of the 5.
Do you think that has anything to do with who he's surrounded by? I mean, like Jason Tatum is surrounded by all-stars. Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford.
So then what's Donovan Mitchell's excuse? I mean, yeah, he's surrounded by Rudy Gobert, but he's the offense. He's the creator, he's the facilitator, and he's really struggled with the role of balancing the I mean, it is hard for somebody that young to be asked to be James Harden at 6'1", but he did it last year.
I also think teams are starting to focus on him a little bit more.
Yeah.
Where they've got a full season of game film.
Right.
And when
I think Lillard struggled too a little bit his second year.
Yeah, I think when you're coming into your second season and you've kind of established things that work in your first year, and you go back and you try to do those things again, you try and perfect them in the summer, but guys are keying in on that, and you're starting to get a lot more attention defensively. Guys like Russell Westbrook coming at you. Only this time they have something to study other than college film, right? So I think that has a lot to do with kind of that second year lull, and you kind of hear about it with a lot of players.
And the fact that he's not an absolutely knockdown 3-point shooter, I think it goes well to that point. De'Aaron Fox has taken that next step in his 3-point shooting to where he's actually a threat. I think he's like around 37%, which is serviceable, especially when you're in a backcourt with Buddy Hield. Like you said, he's just surrounded by really good, young, athletic players who just want to run, and he's the spearhead behind that offense. It's just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I think every single player, at least from like the top 5 of last year, each of their individual journeys has been really different. From like we talked about Lonzo Ball from his first year into the second year, bringing in now a bunch of veterans. Were there veterans on the Laker team his first year?
Kuzma and Ingram got any shot they wanted.
So now they've got guys with like 17-year NBA experience,
championship level experience.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Jason Tatum went from being the go-to creator to the third, fourth option.
Well, and that was also because they were relying on him because Kyrie Irving went down. So like their big playoff run into the East, I forgot about that. So their big run into the East was like, we have to take Tatum's momentum in this league and just ride it to the top. And also Jaylen Brown. And I think that's what Boston is struggling with right now, is like the playoff run that they made is so much different than the team that they're playing with right now, which is with Kyrie Irving and with Gordon Hayward. And they're trying to figure out how to take that same spirit that they had in the playoffs that took them to the Eastern Conference Finals and apply that to a much more talented team, which is crazy that they're struggling.
I kind of want to hear your opinion on this, kind of on the same level. So Brad Stevens last year, like you said, great playoff run. Underlying premise of that is Brad Stevens did a good coaching job. This year, he's a completely different challenge. Now, instead of X's and O's and trying to get Semi Ojeleye on a backdoor cut, he's having to deal with egos. Gordon Hayward, can you please come off the bench for me? It's okay that you only scored 5 points tonight. You'll get him next time, Tiger. Like it's a completely different coaching job almost.
Yeah, and I am a little bit disappointed in Brad Stevens as far as it did really feel like he was the reason that this group stayed together and made a postseason push like they did. The East was also a lot weaker. There was Cleveland and Toronto. Cleveland took care of Toronto for Boston. And there was also Philadelphia, I guess.
Philadelphia struggled against Miami at points, though. Yeah, at points in that Miami series, they didn't look good.
They weren't ready for an Eastern Conference run either. It felt like nobody in the East was really ready to make a run into the NBA Finals. And that was very evident when they played a team from the West, the best team from the West. I don't think
it would have been evident from the third team. The third best team in the West would have swept them.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it, actually. This year, the East it seems like way more prepared. And they also have a huge target on Boston, where they're expected to be the top seed in the East. I honestly still think they should be. I'm blown away that they're not able to put it together with as talented a group as they have. And honestly, one of the more consistent players has been Markieff Morris.
Well, I think we know why.
That guy's been after it.
Because he's on a contract year. That's why he's putting up like 15.5 points a game and trying every night.
That's true. But I mean, Boston has a chance at a championship.
That's true. And he gives them that tough edge mentality that you need.
Yeah, and Marcus Smart. They've got the talent, the depth, and everything to go toe-to-toe with Golden State.
But they just haven't put it together.
No, and I honestly think they will. I can't imagine that a team like this.
So who has done a better coaching job this season, Brad Stevens or Luke Walton? Since I love the Lakers-Boston dichotomy, and I love how these franchises are like so intertwined, even now, today, they're like on the same path. I mean, kind of. Anyway, back to the question.
I would say Luke Walton, because I think
better,
Luke Walton,
even though he's like likely to be fired.
I think Luke Walton is making a huge effort. I think he's really trying to adjust to LeBron James, to having a young core and bringing in veterans, and he's trying to find a way to wrap it all together. And he's always been on his team's side. Like, I think if he gets fired, I think all the players will really miss Luke Walton. I think he's actually really
you watch that Lakers bench during a game, and you can see the joy when Lance Steven does a shimmy in, the faces of JaVale and Kyle Kuzma, you can see it.
I think Luke Walton identifies a lot better with. I mean, he played in the NBA for a while, so he knows what that life is like.
It's to your point with the Tom Thibodeau firing. It's the same kind of plane.
Yeah, I don't think the Lakers are really stressed out when they're dealing with Luke Walton, where if they do fire Walton, who are they going to replace him with?
Brian Shaw.
If Derek Fisher.
He's the associate head coach.
Is he?
Yeah.
I think Steve Nash. Steve Nash is a skills coach for Golden State too, I think. But I think if you fired Luke Walton, I would honestly make LeBron James the coach.
Pretty much. I mean, why not?
Try it. I mean, it's legal to have a player coach, and he's kind of controlling everything anyway. I think LeBron needs to take a step back. I saw a stat that showed the Lakers' offensive and defensive efficiency, or offensive and defensive rating when LeBron was on the floor versus off the court, and both are worse with him on the court. I don't think that necessarily means LeBron makes them worse. That would be insane.
Right.
But it is telling how
it's not he didn't join Cleveland. He didn't join a depleted Cleveland roster. He joined an up and coming young Lakers roster.
Yeah. Who should be much, much, much better with him on the floor. And I think playing at a higher rating. But that's the thing, is everyone's trying to play around LeBron James, where I think Luke Walton really needs to make them play with LeBron James. It seems like the whole goal is like, oh, get the ball to LeBron and then he'll create for us. I think the opposite needs to happen.
And you're starting to see that. You're starting to see Lonzo start to run the offense a little bit more. And that's why LeBron's out for this extended period of time. They got to see what they have.
Yeah, and they have to be comfortable to take over when LeBron is out of the game. I think this is a really valuable thing for the Lakers and for LeBron to watch. So I'm hoping after the All-Star break, the Lakers do make like a nice push into a comfortable playoff spot where they're sitting 5 or 6 seed at least, maybe the 4 seed, but I don't necessarily see them getting that high. Nuggets, Warriors, Thunder. I'd say the 4 seeds up for grabs. I'd say.
Yeah, between Portland, San Antonio, Oklahoma City.
Clippers are going to slip post All-Star break, I think.
I can see that.
That's the only team I could say, and this is ignoring the potential for injuries, but the Clippers are the only team I could see that would slip all the way out of playoff contention.
I think Minnesota could. I know they're right around 500 right now. I don't think Dallas will have anything. I don't think they'll have a big push. Utah's 500 right now. So Sacramento. Gosh, it's just so interesting. The West is so interesting.
It's incredible. 9.5 games between 1 and 14.
Brooklyn is around 500, which is, and they're the 7th seed. Miles, I think we've gone a little over our normal allotted time.
We've gone a long time.
So I think we need to wrap it up, but we need to do this again soon.
Yeah, when there's not as much information in between episodes.
Exactly. So I wanted to ask you one more question before we end. What do you think the Lakers record ends up being? They're 23-19 right now. If you assume LeBron is going to miss, a week or two more, it's only 5 more games. What do you think? Do they get to the 42 mark? Do they get to 44 wins, 46, 40 wins? What do you think?
I would predict I think they get to the 45 win mark, definitely. I think they'll honestly make a push more toward like 46, 47. And that sounds like kind of a petty, like a difference between 45 and 46 wins, but it's going to matter.
Yeah.
When it comes down
I think they'll be like around the 5th or 6th seed, realistically.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I don't think it matters. Are you scared of San Antonio? Yeah.
The first round of the Western Conference Finals or Western Conference playoffs, I don't think is going to matter based on seeding.
Second round might.
second round might. I think it's going to be interesting to see who Golden State draws because they're not the number one seed right now. They're a
And
game
for
and a
that,
half off of the Nuggets. They would play the Rockets in the first round. Playoff started today.
and we'll end on that. We'll come back soon, hopefully before the trade deadline. Peace.